Good morning, everybody. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Today, we're going to be talking about something a little bit strange. There's this play called Rhinoceros by Eugene, I'm going to butcher this, Ionesco. I think that's how you say that. On the surface, just about people turning into rhinos. Nothing to it. Seems simple enough. And to me, that sounded a little bit ridiculous, but this morning we'll be talking about the deeper meaning that's sort of buried in there. A little bit of summary. The play follows an ordinary guy named, I think it's Berenger. He's not the hero type at all. He's tired, messy, and really just trying to get through his day. And as he goes on, a rhino runs through the town, then another and another. Before too long, people start changing, literally turning themselves into rhinos. And one by one, his friends, co-workers, and some of the most reasonable people around him all give in and turn into rhinos. By the end, Berenger is the only human left standing, and the real question becomes, what do you do when everyone else has gone the other direction? Now, Eugene was one of the biggest voices in what a lot of people call the theater of the absurd. He lived through some confusing times in Europe, especially watching the extremist movements kind of spread throughout Europe before the Second World War. And what he noticed was that a lot of regular people, smart people, would slowly talk themselves into going along with things that would have completely shocked them beforehand. You have to forgive me, I'm using a script because there's no way I was going to memorize all this or speak it off the top of my dome. And that realization sits right in the heart of the play. Some historical context for y'all. The play came out in 1959, so not long after the world had watched entire countries just dive headfirst into really dangerous ideologies. Eugene, he didn't want to write a history lecture, so instead he told a story. He decided to tell a story because they can pretty easily sneak past your defenses and make you think a little bit deeper than you would if you were just given a bunch of facts. Those rhinoceroses don't represent animals. They're about how fast independent thinking can disappear when the crowd starts moving. If you were to really boil this play down to its bones, the main theme you'd find is sort of, it's hard to stay yourself when everybody else around you is changing with the times. And all throughout the play, people come up with perfectly reasonable sounding excuses for what's happening. They explain it away, they normalize the crazy, they adapt to their environment. And a lot of this can be seen sort of in our world today too as well. It didn't stop back in World War II. It continued on throughout the years. What strikes me the most about Rhinoceros is that nobody thinks they're making an unwise decision. They think they're doing the right thing, right? Each person who changes has a reason that sounds perfectly sensible in the moment, which is what makes it unsettling. Ionesco suggests that losing your individuality doesn't happen in one big dramatic moment. It happens little by little, one compromise at a time, until all of a sudden the landscape of life is completely changed. Berenger isn't brave because he's strong. He's brave because he's stubborn enough to stay human when it would be a lot easier not to. When everybody around him isn't anymore, and they've chosen the easy way. There are a ton of powerful literary elements going on in this play, but the ones that I think that are most important are the allegories, the metaphors, the absurdism and the character contrast. For allegories, the rhinoceroses are stand-ins for mass movements and group thinking. The metaphors, their physical change mirrors a mental surrender to an idea. The absurdism, the ridiculous situation, helps us see some actual human behavior a lot more clearly. And the character contrast, Berenger's weakness actually highlights his humanity, which I think is really cool. Eugene used the wilderness of his made-up world to point straight at, calling him out, pointing straight at something very real in his world, and that's very real in our world today. Eugene, I was just about to repeat myself. At the end of the play, Berenger decides to remain human. Even if he's the very last one, he doesn't care. He's going to stay a human. He's not going to change the way he lives his life because everybody else has changed the way that they live theirs. It's not loud. It's not flashy. But it matters. Because Eugene is reminding us that thinking for yourself is never the easiest road. It's never the quickest or the safest trail to follow. In fact, a lot of the time, it's going to cost you something. And it could cost you friends, it could cost you family, it could cost you your social standing, but it's often treacherous. But it is the most important trail to take. Yeah, that's my take on it. If you have anything you want to point out, anything that you thought I got wrong, feel free to give me a holler.